They say the Seabees can do the difficult immediately and the impossible takes a little longer. That was our motto, painted on every piece of equipment we had. We believed it too, at least at first, before we learned what impossible really meant. Petty Officer Second Class Frank Navarro, 133rd Naval Construction Battalion, the Seabees. Construction Battalion, Seabee, get it? Before the Navy, I was Frank from Fresno. Worked for my father's construction company, started as a laborer at 15, worked my way up to equipment operator by the time I was 20. Could run a bulldozer, a grader, a crane, anything with an engine and a purpose. December 1941. Pearl Harbor happened and I tried to enlist the next day. Navy recruiter looked at my experience and said they had a new unit forming, construction battalions, men who could build bases, airfields, roads, whatever the Navy needed in the Pacific. Combat engineers, basically, but Navy instead of Army. Sounded good. Better than swabbing decks or sitting in an engine room. I could build things, make something useful, use my skills. Signed up January 1942. They sent us to Camp Allen in Virginia for training. Taught us military discipline. We were Navy after all, even if we worked like civilian contractors. Taught us how to work under fire, how to build fast, how to defend ourselves when building wasn't enough. They issued us rifles and told us the Seabee creed, we build, we fight. Not we build or we fight. Both. Always both. We shipped to the South Pacific in August 1942. First stop was New Caledonia. Built fuel depots, ammunition dumps, housing for Marines heading to Guadalcanal. It was hot, it was miserable, but it wasn't dangerous. Not yet. That came later, when they sent us to the forward areas, to the islands we'd just taken, to the places where the Japanese were still close enough to shell us, bomb us, try to take back what we'd built. March 1943. They loaded the 133rd onto transport ships and told us we were heading to the Russell Islands, just north of Guadalcanal. We'd taken them from the Japanese a few weeks earlier. Now we needed to build airfields. Fast, before the Japanese could counterattack, before they could reinforce, before we lost the momentum. We had 6 weeks to build a fighter strip capable of handling Corsairs and P-38s. 6 weeks to carve an airfield out of jungle and coral. 6 weeks to do what normally took 6 months. No problem, they said. You're Seabees. You can do anything. We believed them, still believed our motto, still thought impossible just meant difficult. We hit the beach on Russell Islands, Banneker specifically, on March 15, 1943. 800 men, bulldozers, graders, trucks, compressors, mountains of equipment and supplies, and orders to build a 5,000-foot runway in 6 weeks. The island was secured, they said. The Japanese were gone. We'd be working in a safe area. That was half true. The Japanese ground forces were gone, but their bombers weren't. And they knew exactly what we were trying to do. We started work the same day we landed. Couldn't waste time. The Marine Corps needed that airfield. Needed it to extend fighter coverage. Needed it to support the push up the Solomon Islands chain. Needed it yesterday. First job was clearing the jungle. We fired up the bulldozers and started pushing. Coconut palms, dense undergrowth, coral outcroppings, all of it had to go. We worked in shifts, 12 hours on, 12 hours off, around the clock, day and night. The heat was incredible. 110 degrees during the day. Humidity you could drink. We worked stripped to the waist, sweat pouring off us, drinking water by the gallon and still getting dehydrated. Men collapsed. Heat exhaustion. Heat stroke. We'd drag them to the shade, pour water on them, get them to the medics, then get back to work. The equipment broke down constantly. Coral dust got into everything. Engines, hydraulics, tracks. We had mechanics working around the clock just keeping the dozers running. You'd fix one problem and 2 more would pop up. But we kept going. Had to. The schedule didn't care about breakdowns. 3 days in, we'd cleared enough jungle to start rough grading. That's when the bombers came. March 18th, just after dark. We heard them before we saw them. That distinctive sound of Japanese Betty bombers, engines out of sync, droning overhead. Then the anti-aircraft guns opened up, tracers streaking into the sky, and the bombs started falling. Not on us, not the first night. They hit the supply dumps near the beach, but close enough to shake the ground, close enough to send shrapnel singing through the air, close enough to make the message clear. We know you're here. We know what you're building, and we're coming for you. We kept working. What else were we going to do? The runway didn't build itself. The bombings became routine, every few nights, sometimes every night. The Japanese would send over a dozen Bettys, drop their loads, and disappear before our fighters could intercept them. They targeted the runway, the equipment, the fuel dumps, anything that would slow us down. We learned to work through it, learned to tell the difference between bombs falling near and bombs falling on us. Learned when to dive for the slit trenches and when to just keep working because the bombs were hitting somewhere else. Learned to rebuild what they destroyed. Every morning we'd assess the damage, fill in the bomb craters on the runway, repair damaged equipment, replace destroyed supplies, then keep building. March 25th. We were grading the runway surface when the bombers came in daylight, broad daylight, bold as hell. 14 Bettys escorted by Zeros. They came in low, strafing first, then dropping their bombs. I was on a bulldozer, pushing coral to level out a section of runway. Heard the engines, looked up, saw them coming right at us. No time to run. No time to do anything except drop off the dozer and hit the ground. The Zeros came first, 50 caliber rounds chewing up the coral around me. I pressed myself flat, felt the impacts, felt the rounds hitting metal, hitting equipment, hitting men, then the bombs, whistling down, impacts that lifted me off the ground, pressure waves that squeezed my chest, dirt and coral raining down. When it stopped, I looked up. My bulldozer was on fire, fuel tank hit, flames pouring out. The man on the dozer next to mine, Seaman Richards from Georgia, he wasn't moving, wasn't getting up. He'd been hit. Strafing run got him. Dead before he could get off the machine. We had 5 men killed that day, 15 wounded, and we'd lost 2 bulldozers, a grader, and a fuel truck. But we kept building, salvaged what we could, worked around the damage, made up time where we could. Because the Marines needed that runway, and we were Seabees. We build, we fight, we don't stop. The routine became surreal. Work all day in the heat, get bombed at night, repair the damage in the morning, work all day, get bombed again, over and over. We stopped thinking about it, stopped processing it. You couldn't function if you thought too hard about the fact that you were building an airfield while people actively tried to kill you. So you just didn't think. Put your head down, ran the equipment, moved the coral, built the runway. Men died, Peterson, Rodriguez, Chen, Williams, not all at once. 1 here, 2 there, bombs, shrapnel, equipment accidents that happened because we were exhausted and working too fast and making mistakes. We buried them near the edge of the jungle, quick graves, simple markers, then back to work. April 10th. We were 3 weeks in, behind schedule because of the raids. The runway was taking shape, but the surface wasn't ready. Needed to be compacted, needed to be smooth, needed to be perfect because you can't land a fighter on rough coral. That night the bombers came again, heavier raid, more planes. They hit the runway directly, cratered it in a dozen places, destroyed a week's worth of work in 15 minutes. We started filling in the craters at first light, didn't stop to feel sorry for ourselves. Didn't stop to curse the Japanese or the war or the orders that put us here. Just started filling, pushing coral, grading, compacting, again. April 15th. 3 weeks left. The runway was 70% complete, but we were running out of time, running out of supplies. running out of men. We were down to 600 because of casualties and illness. The battalion commander, Commander Hayes, he called us together, told us the situation, told us the Marines were launching an offensive up the chain, told us they needed this runway operational by May 1st, or men would die. Marines would die because fighters couldn't reach them, bombers couldn't support them. "I know you're exhausted," he said. "I know we've lost good men. But we have to finish this. We don't have a choice." He was right. We didn't. We pushed harder. 18-hour shifts, 20-hour shifts, sleep when you collapsed, wake up and get back on the equipment. We ran the machines until they broke, fixed them in the field, cannibalized parts from damaged equipment to keep the working equipment running. The Japanese kept bombing. We kept rebuilding. It became a race. Could we build faster than they could destroy? Could we finish before we ran out of time? Before we ran out of men? April 23rd. I was running a grader, smoothing the runway surface. It was 0300 hours. Dark except for the work lights. I'd been at it for 16 hours straight. Could barely keep my eyes open. Barely remember doing the work. Just muscle memory. Just going through the motions. Heard the bombers coming. Too tired to care. Kept grading. Figured if a bomb had my name on it, nothing I could do about it anyway. The bombs hit the north end of the runway, 200 yards away, felt the concussion, felt the grader shake, kept working. That's what we'd become, too tired to run, too numb to care, just working, always working, because stopping meant thinking, meant feeling, meant acknowledging what this was costing us. Better to just keep working. April 28th, 3 days left. The runway was 95% complete. Surface was good, markings were down. We were installing the fuel systems, building the revetments for the aircraft, almost done. That morning, a Marine Corsair made an emergency landing. Engine trouble. Pilot limped in, landed on our unfinished runway, and taxied to a stop. He climbed out, looked around at the construction equipment, at the men working, at the bomb craters we were still filling. "This strip operational?" he asked. "Almost," Commander Hayes told him. "Close enough," the pilot said. "Saved my life. Thank you." He meant it. You could see it in his face. This runway we'd been killing ourselves to build, it had already saved a life. Would save more. That's what it was for. Should have felt good. Should have felt validated. Should have felt like the sacrifice meant something. I just felt tired. May 1st, 1945. The runway was complete. 5,000 feet of compacted coral, smooth, level, ready for operations. We'd done it. 6 weeks. Built an airfield in the jungle while the Japanese bombed us. Lost 32 men doing it, but we'd done it. That afternoon, Marine Fighter Squadron V MF-214, the Black Sheep, landed. 12 Corsairs. They taxied to the revetments we'd built. Shut down. Pilots climbed out. They looked at us. Dirty, exhausted, barely standing. Looked at the runway. Looked at the jungle we'd carved it from. Looked at the bomb craters around the edges. Their squadron commander found Commander Hayes. Shook his hand, said, "Hell of a job, Commander." Hayes nodded, didn't say anything. What was there to say? The Marines set up operations, started flying missions that day. Patrol flights, escort missions, close air support for troops up the chain, everything the runway was built for. We stayed on Banica for another month, maintained the runway, extended it, built additional facilities. The bombing continued, but less frequently. The Japanese had bigger problems now. We'd taken the initiative. They were reacting, not attacking. The work never stopped. We built a second runway, built hangars, built housing for the squadrons. Seabees don't rest. There's always another project, another base to build, another impossible job that needs doing now. June 1943. They shipped us to New Georgia. Another island, another airfield, another deadline. Same process. clear the jungle, grade the coral, build the runway, get bombed, rebuild, finish, move on. We did it again, and again, and again. Banika, Munda, Emerau, Paliliu. Every island had a runway. Every runway cost us men. Every base we built pushed the war forward. The 133rd built 11 airfields before the war ended. 11. Thousands of aircraft operated from them. Thousands of missions flown. Thousands of lives saved because fighters could reach the battlefield. Bombers could hit their targets. Medevac planes could evacuate the wounded. We built that. With our hands, with our equipment, with our lives. The Seabees built over 400 bases in the Pacific. Airfields, harbors, roads, hospitals. Everything an army needs to fight a war across an ocean. We built it while the enemy tried to kill us. Built it in jungles and on coral atolls and in places with no names that nobody remembers. We built, we fought. That was the creed. That's what we did. It's 1973 now. 28 years since the war ended. I'm 51 years old. Run a construction company in Fresno. Took over my father's business when he retired. We build shopping centers and housing developments and office buildings. Good work, clean work, safe work. Nobody shoots at us while we work. I still run equipment sometimes. Can't help it. Put me in a bulldozer and it all comes back. The weight of the controls, the rumble of the engine, the satisfaction of moving earth, shaping terrain, building something from nothing. But it's different now, easier. We have time. We have plans. We have safety regulations and permits and schedules that make sense. We don't have Japanese bombers. We don't have men dying. We don't have deadlines measured in lives instead of dollars. I think about Banika sometimes, about that first airfield, about the 6 weeks we spent building it while they tried to kill us, about the 32 men who died so 12 Corsairs could land. Was it worth it? 32 lives for one runway? The Marines who flew from that runway would say yes. The men they supported would say yes. The war we won would say yes. But I remember their faces. Richards on the burning bulldozer. Peterson buried near the jungle. All the others whose names are on the memorial at the edge of the runway that probably doesn't exist anymore. Were their lives worth the runway, or was the runway worth their lives? I don't know if there's a difference. I just know we built it. Because that was the job. Because the Marines needed it. Because impossible just meant difficult, and difficult was what Seabees did. My son works for the company now. 23 years old, never seen combat, never built anything while people shot at him. I'm glad about that. Glad he'll never know what it's like to fill in bomb craters at dawn, to rebuild at night what was destroyed during the day, to keep working while men die around you because the schedule doesn't care. He asks about the war sometimes, about the Seabees, about the islands. I tell him the safe stories, the proud stories, about building 11 airfields, about supporting the Marines, about doing the impossible. I don't tell him about Richards, about working 18-hour shifts until you couldn't remember your own name, about the numbness that came when you stopped processing the death around you because processing meant breaking down and you couldn't break down because the runway had to be finished. I don't tell him that every time I run a bulldozer I hear bombs falling, that every time we pour concrete I smell the coral dust of Banika, that every time I look at a finished project I count the men who aren't there to see it. Some things you can't explain, can't share. Can't make someone understand who wasn't there. The Seabees built the Pacific War, built the bases that won it, built the infrastructure that let MacArthur return to the Philippines, that let the bombers reach Japan, that let the Navy control the ocean. We built, we fought. We did the impossible. We did it over and over until impossible became normal, until building under fire was just another day. Until men dying was just another cost of construction. They gave us medals. unit citations, battle stars, all the decorations that say you did something important, something that mattered. I have them in a box somewhere. Don't look at them much. Because they're not for building, they're for surviving, for making it home when 32 men didn't, for being here 28 years later to remember what they can't. The 133rd Naval Construction Battalion doesn't exist anymore. Deactivated after the war, the men scattered, the equipment scrapped. The bases we built either abandoned or modernized beyond recognition. But Banica is still there. The island, the jungle, probably grown over the runway by now. Nature reclaiming what we carved out of it. And the graves near the edge of the jungle, still there too, unless someone moved them. Unless someone decided 32 Seabees didn't matter enough to maintain their cemetery on an island nobody needs anymore. I think about going back, seeing it again, seeing what's left of what we built, what we died for. But I won't. Can't. What would I find except ghosts? Except the memory of who I was at 23? Working a bulldozer under fire, building the impossible, believing our motto. The Seabees can do the difficult immediately, and the impossible takes a little longer. We proved that. Built 11 airfields, 400 bases, won the war in the Pacific, and it only cost everything. Not everything we had, everything we were. Because you don't build under fire and stay the same. Don't watch men die and stay the same. Don't spend 3 years turning impossible into reality and stay the same. You change. Harden break. Become something else. Something that can keep working while bombs fall. That can rebuild while men are buried. That can finish the mission no matter what it costs. We built the runway at Banica in 6 weeks. Lost 32 men doing it. And it was worth it because it had to be worth it. Because if it wasn't, then what did they die for? What did any of us survive for? I'm 51 years old, built a good life, good business, good family, everything you're supposed to want. But part of me never left Banica, never stopped running that grader at 0300 hours while bombs fell, never stopped counting the men who weren't coming back, never stopped building under fire, because that's what Seabees do. We build, we fight, we don't stop, even when maybe we should, even when the cost is too high, even when impossible means exactly that, impossible. And we do it anyway because someone has to, and we're the ones who can. 28 years later, I'm still building, still counting the cost, still carrying Banica.